Sometimes these are the best. The questions you come up in the car are the best. Actually, I write a tuition for a drum magazine in the UK, and I did one on the plane to Israel. And that one was perfect, because I thought, like, I have to come up with something before the plane lands because I have no time. It turned out great, because sometimes it's also with songwriting. Sometimes you have to force yourself to work. Like, amateurs wait for inspiration, professionals just work. So car questions are the best. Hi, my name is Hannes Grossmann. We're in my studio here looking at my beautiful Tama drum set, and we're gonna talk drum-related stuff today. Other people would say, if you would say, music is the language of the soul or something like that. I don't know. I think for me it might be very much more profane. It's a tool. It's a tool to songwriting. It's an instrument that of all the instruments I play best by far. So that's my choice. And of course, the songs that I play and that I write, or the songs I play for other people, are what drive me forward. So to me, it's definitely an artistic approach to my instrument. If I wasn't creating music myself, I probably wouldn't rehearse anymore, to be honest, because I just see it as a tool to create songs and make songs better and work out song structures and all of that. The point is with my drumming, I invested a lot of time in becoming the musician I am. If I had an accident and couldn't play drums anymore, then I would make music, and that's the most important thing. And drumming to me is just one way of doing that, and share the stage with musicians that are able to play their instruments in an equal way and on the same level. And that's the point. And that's why I still practice and still do that. It's always bringing music to people, like original music to people and compositions. And that's my approach. It's a very practical one. If you play original music and create music with other people, even if you don't have a clue about guitar riffs or something like that, I think every drummer is a composer. If you do your own songs, you have to find the right drum line to orchestrate the parts, to go from, let's say, if you go from a verse into a chorus, then you have to know how to do that in the most efficient way, or in the most musical way, actually. And so what are you doing? You're composing. You think about drum fills that could lead into the next part, and you think about rhythms that orchestrate the riffs or the melodies or anything like that. And that's composing to me. There's no difference. Even if you don't write original tunes with chord changes and all of that, it's still, when you write a drum line, it's composing the drum line. I also see improvising in that sense. To me, it's more like on-the-fly composing, if you want. It's not necessarily just go freeform all the time. You need to have rules. And the same thing is with creating a fixed drum line for a song. If you do it well, those drum lines stick to people. There are lots of examples, of grooves or groove designs or fill-ins that people relate to. If people play some of the songs by Led Zeppelin, you expect certain fills at a certain time, or certain drum lines in a certain way. And if you play them differently, people will recognize it, and that's part of the composition. And that's why I think every drummer is a composer, or should be a composer. creating music, there is no general rule or general thing. It's just a good thing to think about what you actually need for a song or a drum performance, or if it's not getting too much and too overwhelming. In the style I play, it's a style, especially when I play stuff of Blotted Science, that's a style of music which, you know, a lot of notes are happening. People who are not familiar with it, with that kind of style, they could think it's borderline overplayed, but we reduce as much as we can already. Like, it's not playing a drum solo over a song. I always, like when I write and arrange songs, I always think about the song is perfect if I can't leave away anything anymore without taking away the basic idea. And so that's a good, not a rule, but that's a good guideline. If you say, like, you have a drum arrangement and think about every fill you do, and do I need to reduce the notes I play? Like, make them slower or just play less? And this is a very good approach, I think. It can make a difference. Sometimes it's just not very obvious that it's been done because the overall style, like, is so busy anyways. But it's the same approach than to a pop song. If you say, like, less is more and take it as a rule, you are in danger to castrate the song. You know what I mean? Like, to make it less interesting than it actually could be. A lot of people say that Neil Peart does overplaying because he plays a lot and orchestrates stuff. But think about it. Rush is a 3-piece. There's a lot of room. And actually those drum lines perfectly fit the songs. So how can that be overplayed? To me, I just don't see it. It's just, in the end, a matter of taste, if you like a lot of notes or if you don't. But there's no general rule. And I would say, like, there might be a guideline that you always try to prove to yourself that you've done the best drum line. That could be whatever. Sometimes it requires to play a lot. Sometimes it doesn't. Imagine if you would write a death metal song where you think about hearing blast beats and you play just the regular 4/4 groove. It sounds ridiculous. It's just not the right thing. And that's the bottom line. You have to play the right thing for the music always. And that's the challenge. It's not a question of less is more or anything like that. It depends on the style. It depends on the music itself. And mostly the music tells you what to play if it's written well. Working with arrangements had a tremendous impact on my playing, because I'm forced to see the whole vision of a song. Especially when you're young, you want to show what you can do, right? I mean, a lot of people won't admit that, but that's the case with a lot of young drummers. Of course, you practice a lot of technique, and you want to use it. The point is, sometimes it can get in the way of creating the best drumline for a song. Of course, at the end of the day, you have to think about what's the best fit. And when you think in how is the song arranged, then you have to think about how can I get from part A to part B. Sometimes it needs a fill to get there. Sometimes it's just enough to switch from the hi-hat to the right cymbal. I don't really enjoy a lot of pop songs I hear on the radio that have one beat on one drum, without fills, without anything. I think that's not enough. I think it's not the best way of performing or outlining the song. Even when you listen to some Phil Collins stuff, it's obvious that when he plays in a verse, he plays on the hi-hat, while in the chorus of the song, he switches to the right cymbal, and it opens up the whole tune. And that's something I'm very interested in, and that's something that has influenced me a lot. I'm not saying that Phil Collins is one of my main influences, but it's like the general thought, which instruments on my drum set am I using for which part? And what kind of beat design do I choose for a song, but for different parts? How do they interact? And that's something that is probably the main core like the core of what I do is actually this, thinking about structure. Let's say in a drum solo you have to have some kind of structure, because otherwise nobody can follow. And it's not, you're not doing it only for yourself. There is a communication between audience and musicians, and somehow the people there have to have a clue about what's going on. I'm not saying that you need to play in a way that everybody understands you. I don't say that. But it needs to be somehow where people think, oh, I think there's a point to it. If it's just random, then it has no point to it to me. And that's something that influences me a lot, like structure and you know, arrangement. That's the most important thing to me. Through my collaborations with other musicians, I learned the most, and that was like the biggest influence on me as a player. As a player and as a musician in general. A lot of people name the influences and name bands that they liked to listen to. And of course that's an influence, it's a very obvious one, and I have tons of that, of course. But I played in Necrophagist for 4 years, and of course, when you work in a band like 4 years and play the songs live on a 6-week tour every day, it has a much bigger impact on your own musicality than listening to records. Even if you listen 100 times to an album, it's not the same thing than actually playing in a band and playing the songs every night. That's way more important. And I've learned a lot through my collaboration with other musicians, and especially with Ron Jarsenbeck. That was very helpful. A lot of drummers he has played with in the past were not too happy to play with him, because he has very, very distinct ideas of what he wants to hear. Like, for instance, that was the funny thing. For the EP we did together, I was composing the drums only, not any of the music, because it's nuts, you know. I was just doing my drums. That was hard enough, actually. And I came up with a part on a ride cymbal, and then he wrote me back, again, email, a ride cymbal, huh? You really want to use a ride cymbal on the album? And I'm like, yes, I guess so. And he's like, what's next? A cowbell? And I had to laugh, because he just doesn't like the sound of most ride cymbals. And then I said, like, hey, let's just try it. And he said, oh, I kind of see it work. That's good. Okay, let's do it. But in general, that's why a lot of hi-hat is very present in Ron Jarsenbeck's music, because that's what he wants to hear. And he has a very distinct idea about drum fills and when to play it and what to play exactly and what kind of rhythm. It has a very distinct structure. And to me, if I could say, I let go of my own ego, let's say it this way, and just try to work this out in the best way possible to create something that's suitable for his vision as a composer. And that was very, very helpful. And that's something that had a big impact on me, and I learned a lot by that. Because he, as a guitar player, he has a total different view on drumming as like a drummer has. And that has brought me a lot further. And you have to embrace stuff like that, like very distinct ideas of other people. You really have to try them out before saying, no, that doesn't work. Because sometimes it does work perfectly, but you have to let go of the fact that it's not 100% your own thing. But you can improve when you accept challenges like that. That's the thing, that's why I love working with Ron Jarsenbeck, because he knows what he's talking about. It's not just describing I need a rhythm like this. He has a very distinct idea what he wants to hear. And that's actually much easier to come up with something creative, because it's restricted. That's to me like more like the definition of being creative. Like, have a limited source and make the best out of it. If something becomes popular and amazes a lot of people, there will be copies of it. Some people get influenced and create their own thing with that influence. And that's where the term progressive becomes a meaning, because you progress. You create new ideas and you bring things together that necessarily don't get along on the paper, as you said. And I would say like a lot of the so-called progressive music is very generic. It's not meant in a way, in an arrogant way, because I'm not sure if my own music is always that progressive. But one thing must be clear about progressive music, or if it's not progressive, doesn't matter what the term is. It should be authentic and your own. At least you should try to have your own way of playing on the drum set, no matter who influenced you, but it still should be your own touch and on the instrument. And when you write music, it should be your own touch in the writing, and it should be recognizable. It's like a singer you can immediately recognize. It's more important that you can recognize his voice. It's more important than if he's singing pitch perfect. You can have pitch perfect singers who have no identity. Maybe this is a very similar thing, and it doesn't have to do something with the term progressive music or not. It's anything that is new is per definition progressive, in my opinion, and I don't really give too much about definitions in that term. I was always struggling with double bass drumming. Even though a lot of people think, I'm an expert in that sense, it was a long way. And that's something where I struggled a lot, I think. And I had to find the right technique, and it took a long time until I finally found out the right movements for me. At a certain point I was fast already, but it was always like a feeling that I'm not too relaxed. I have to warm up before and then somehow play it with some strength rather than technique, and I was always feeling that I have an internal struggle. You might not hear it on an album or in a live performance, but to me I felt that way, and it took a lot of time until I was able to play that all the fast double bass stuff without any problems. And that was really a major problem, because I had to play all the fast double bass stuff. Maybe not George Collier's fast, but still 230, 240 BPM, something like that. And once I finally found out the tricks to do that, or the right technique, that was a big relief for me. And now I can be very relaxed when playing double bass drum. It might sound exactly the same now, but it feels completely different. And that's why I think technique does make a difference in the end. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to only talk about me and myself and what I do, because that rarely happens, I have to say, as a drummer. If you're interested, feel free to check out my website at www.hannesgrossmann.com. Don't forget to spell it with a double N, because I'm German. Anyway, goodbye.